I want to start with a scenario that I think is going to feel uncomfortably familiar for a lot of people.
Oh, I'm ready.
Okay. So you have a decision to make. Doesn't even have to be this, huge life-altering thing. Maybe it's just buying a new piece of tech, or maybe sending a slightly awkward email.
Right. The stakes are often surprisingly low for how much anxiety we feel about them.
Exactly. But instead of just making the call, you freeze.
Yeah.
You just can't seem to move forward.
Mm-hmm.
So you text 3 different friends to get their take. You ask your partner what they do. You might even find yourself on some, I don't know, Reddit thread from 5 years ago, just scrolling for hours looking for consensus.
That is the paralysis of the modern condition, isn't it? We're just drowning in information, but starving for our own conviction.
We're outsourcing our own lives. It feels like we're treating our own intuition like it's broken by default. And that is exactly what we are digging into today.
Yeah.
We're exploring a concept called leaning. And no, not bad posture, though, frankly, the way I hunch over my phone reading those Reddit threads is a whole other problem.
A topic for another day.
A topic for another day.
Yeah.
This is about a mental posture, a state of mind where you've basically handed over your inner authority to a committee.
It is such a profound topic, and honestly, one of the most actionable discussions we could have. We're looking at it through the lens of Ernest Holmes and his classic book from 1930, Creative Mind and Success.
And specifically, one chapter.
Right?
Chapter 11, which has a title that it feels like a slap on the back from a good coach. It's called Don't Be a Leaner.
So direct. I love it.
It is. It sounds harsh, but when you actually read the text, it's this incredibly empowering, almost radical philosophy of self-reliance. The whole premise today is about reclaiming the power you lose when you try to light your path with someone else's lamp.
And that image is so central to what Holmes is arguing. The idea that we all have our own light, an internal capacity for judgment, for intelligence, but we spend so much time trying to borrow everyone else's flashlight that we let our own batteries die.
We become dependent.
Completely dependent on external validation to take even the smallest step.
So if you are tired of the second guessing, or if you just feel like you constantly need permission to live your own life, this discussion is absolutely for you.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a quick roadmap for what we're going to cover. First, we'll get into why seeking constant validation isn't just, an annoying habit. It actually dilutes your personal power. It's a battery drain.
Next, we'll discuss the art of what Holmes calls keeping your own counsel, this idea of secrecy, which sounds so counterintuitive in our share everything world, but it's actually a tool for success.
And finally, we're going to break down a simple 4-step method to quiet all that noise and act with what Holmes calls backbone instead of wishbone.
I love that phrase. It's the shift from passive hoping to active standing.
If this episode helps you, please hit like and subscribe for the next one.
So let's get right into it, the definition of leaning.
Yeah, let's unpack that term. Because when I first hear leaner, my immediate thought is someone who's, like, lazy. Someone literally leaning on a wall while everyone else is working.
Right.
But that's not really what Holmes is getting at, is it?
Not at all. It's not about physical laziness. I mean, you could be working 80 hours a week and still be a leaner in his sense.
So, what is it?
Holmes is defining it as a psychological dependency. It's the habit of depending on other people for guidance that should, and really can, only come from within your own mind. He uses that metaphor you mentioned.
A lamp.
Yes. When we depend on others, we are, and this is his phrase, taking their light and trying to light our path with it.
Which, if you really think about it, is a logistical nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
Because their light is shining on their path.
Which could be going in a completely different direction.
Exactly. And it just weakens you. Let's talk about the modern version of this, the approval loop.
The approval loop. That's a great way to put it.
It sounds like my daily existence. Break it down for us.
Okay, so it's this cycle of anxiety and avoidance. You feel the weight of responsibility for a choice. And if you make that choice and it goes wrong, well, that's on you. It's your fault.
And the ego hates it.
The ego absolutely hates that risk. So to get rid of that anxiety, we check with the committee. We poll our friends, we post on social media, we ask the experts.
Right, because if I ask 5 people and they all say go for it, and then it blows up in my face.
You can say, well, they told me to do it.
It's a way to outsource the blame.
It is. It's a mechanism for outsourcing blame. But here's the catch, and it's a painful one. When you outsource the blame, you also outsource the victory.
Oof.
You don't get that feeling of success if you didn't really make the call. You stay a child in your own life, perpetually waiting for an adult to tell you it's okay to go outside and play.
That hits hard. It really does. It's like refusing to be the leader of your own life. So, okay, let's flip this. If we stop leaning, what are we standing on? Because Holmes makes a pretty big claim about where our power comes from.
He does. And this is where the philosophy gets really deep and interesting. Holmes writes that all the power and intelligence of the universe is already within.
Already within.
It's not something you have to go out and buy. It's not something a guru can give you. It's factory installed.
Okay, but isn't that a little arrogant? Yeah, I mean, to say, I have all the intelligence of the universe. If I'm sitting here trying to figure out my taxes, I definitely don't feel like I have the intelligence of the universe. I feel pretty limited.
That's a fair question. And no, he's not talking about ego-driven arrogance. He doesn't mean your conscious personality knows everything. He's talking about what he calls self-recognition.
It's recognition.
It's about recognizing that you are an individual center of a greater intelligence. The phrase that really anchors this whole idea, and I think it's one of the most important lines in the book, is this: man is the inlet and the outlet to all there is in God.
The inlet and the outlet. I want to stop on that because it sounds profound, but let's pressure test it. What does that actually mean, practically? Are we just a pipe?
Think of it in terms of flow. You aren't necessarily the one generating the electricity, but you're the wire. The inlet is your capacity to receive an idea, an inspiration, a gut feeling.
Okay.
And the outlet is your ability to act on it, to bring it into the world.
Right, I follow that.
So now think about the leaner. If you are constantly looking sideways to see what your neighbor is doing or looking up to a mentor for a nod of approval, you're effectively kinking the hose.
You're blocking the inlet.
You're blocking the inlet. You're saying, I don't trust the signal that's coming directly to me, so I'm going to try to catch the signal that's coming to that person over there.
It's like having a direct fiber optic cable to the internet, but you're ignoring it and trying to guess your neighbor's Wi-Fi password because you think they must have a better connection.
That is a perfect analogy. Why deal with lag and buffering when you are hardwired into the source? But to use that connection, you have to fan the spark. Holmes says the divine spark must be fanned into a blaze by the individual.
No one else can do it for you.
No one else can blow on that fire for you. You have to actually trust that the voice inside you is valid.
And that trust, it requires silence.
Which brings us to the next big point. And I'll be honest, this is the one I struggle with the most. Keeping your own counsel.
This is often the hardest hurdle for people, especially ambitious people. We're social. When we have a great idea, a new business, a new project, our first instinct is to broadcast it.
Oh, absolutely. We want to tell everyone, guess what I'm going to do?
We want that dopamine hit.
Yes. If I tell you I'm going to run a marathon and you say, wow, that's amazing, I feel great. I feel like I've already accomplished something. Exactly. You got the reward without doing the work. But Holmes warns that this is so dangerous. He talks about the power of silence and a specific danger in talking too soon.
What's the danger?
When you talk about a big idea before you've embodied it, before you started the actual work, you dissipate the energy.
He has that analogy about the steam engine here, which I just thought was brilliant. It makes it feel less like superstition and more like physics.
Yes. Let's look at the mechanics of it. Think of an old steam engine. How does it move a whole train? It boils water to create steam. And then, this is the crucial part, it traps that steam inside a boiler.
It has to contain it to build up pressure.
Exactly. That pressure is what drives the piston, what turns the wheels. Now, what if you just open all the valves on the side and let the steam hiss out into the air?
It would make a lot of noise. It'd look pretty dramatic.
A huge cloud of steam. It would attract a lot of attention. People might look and say, wow, look at all that steam.
But the train's not moving.
The train is not moving. There's no pressure left to move the wheels. Talking is the leak. Every time you explain your plan to someone who doesn't need to know, you are opening a valve. You're letting the steam out.
That is actually painful to hear. Because I can think of so many projects where I talked them to death. I talked about them until I was bored of them, and then I never did the work. I leaked all the pressure.
And Holmes is very practical here. His advice is, when you have a real thing to do, keep it to yourself. Know what you want, keep still, and let the conviction build pressure inside you. That internal tension, that feeling of, I have to do this, that's the fuel.
And if you talk it away, you lose the fuel. So the silence isn't just about being mysterious. It's a containment field for creative energy.
It preserves the integrity of the idea. And there's another reason, too. When you talk too soon, you invite opposing vibrations. You invite skepticism.
Ugh, the devil's advocate friend. We all have one.
Right. If your idea is just a fragile little seedling and you expose it to the harsh wind of a cynical friend's doubt, it might not survive. They say, oh, that sounds risky, or have you thought about the economy? And suddenly your conviction starts to waver.
But silence protects the seedling.
Until it's a tree. Once it's a tree, the wind can blow all at once.
Wait thou within the silence dim. It sounds so mystical, but it's actually just really good strategy. But this brings up a practical problem. What if we want to listen to our inner voice, but it's really loud in there? My mind isn't a silent stem. It feels more like a construction site.
And that's the constant battle, isn't it?
Yep.
Clarity versus turmoil. Holmes talks about the stream of consciousness.
Right.
Think of your mind like a mountain stream. If the water is calm and clear, it can perfectly reflect the sky. It reflects what Holmes calls the divine pattern.
But when the mind is in turmoil, confused, distracted, seeking all those external opinions,
The stream is muddy, it's choppy, you can't see the reflection anymore. The sky is still there, the right answer, the intuition, it's still present, but you can't see it because you've churned up all the water.
so to be self-reliant, you have to let the stream clear.
You have to stop throwing rocks in it. If you ask 5 people what you should do, you've just thrown 5 big rocks into your stream. You have to minimize the confusion to hear the signal.
Okay, so let's get into the how-tos of this. Because Holmes doesn't just leave us with be quiet and trust yourself. He actually outlines a method, a sequence for success that moves from that silence into action.
It flows very logically.
So walk us through it. What's the first step?
The first step is what we were just discussing. Quiet the mind. You have to withdraw into the silence. You have to shut out the world for a moment. And this is active, not passive. You are deliberately closing the door on all the noise.
Okay, so first, quiet. What's next?
Next, decide. In that quiet space, you receive the impression, the guidance. You ask the question, what is the next right move? And then you listen for the answer.
And just to be clear, this isn't necessarily a booming voice from the clouds.
No, rarely. It's usually just a nudge, an idea, a feeling of this way seems right, or sometimes just a calm sense of knowing.
So,
Yeah.
quiet, then decide, then when?
Then, act. You have to move with assurance. Once you have that impression, you don't second guess it. You don't go ask your neighbor if they think it's a good idea. You act on it.
And the final step.
Finally, persist. This is where he says to ignore the negative talk, ignore the failures. You just hold the vision.
There's a quote in this section that I just have to read because it sums this up perfectly. He says, we need more backbone and less wishbone.
It's a fantastic line, so concise.
It's so good. We spend so much time wishing, I wish I had that job. I wish I felt better. But a wishbone is fragile. It just snaps. A backbone is the structure that actually holds you up while you walk toward the goal.
It's the difference between passive hope and active faith. A wishbone is, I hope this happens to me. Backbone is, I am making this happen because I am the inlet and outlet of the power that makes things happen.
I want to ground this in some real-world examples because I think we all have areas where we're total leaners and maybe other areas where we're pretty self-reliant. Let's start with work. The professional leaner.
Oh, we see this constantly. This is the person with the employee mindset, even if they're an entrepreneur. They're waiting for permission. They're waiting for a path to be cleared for them.
They're the ones who say things like, well, nobody trained me on that, or I'm just waiting for my boss to tell me what the priority is.
Exactly. They see themselves as dependent on the external structure. But contrast that with the self-reliant professional. Holmes suggests that even if you're employed by someone else, you have to see yourself as a free agent. You recognize that your own thinking is the motive power of your career.
Not the economy, not your boss.
Right. If you feel trapped, it's often because you're waiting for the company to provide security. But the self-reliant person creates their own mental atmosphere of success, which then attracts the opportunity. They don't complain about a lack of opportunity, they create value.
If you're waiting for someone to discover you, you're leaning. If you're discovering yourself and putting that out there, you're standing.
That's it.
Okay, what about in relationships? Emotional leaning is a huge trap, and it's a tricky one. We want connection. We don't want to be robots.
This is a delicate balance. Of course we want connection and intimacy, but leaning in a relationship is when you try to extract your sense of self-worth from your partner. You're using them as a crutch for your own ego.
Like, I don't feel good about myself unless you tell me I'm okay right now.
Precisely. Holmes writes, man is never displaced until he has let his mental fingers loosen their hold. In a relationship context, that means you're never truly lost unless you lose your grip on your own self-concept.
So if you're relying on your partner to hold that self-concept for you, you're in a really precarious position.
A very precarious position. Healthy boundaries mean you bring a whole person to the relationship. True self-reliance differentiates isolation, which is shutting people out, from keeping counsel, which is trusting your own judgment first.
So you walk side by side, you don't have one person carrying the other.
Exactly. You share the journey, but you don't ask them to drive your car.
That's a powerful distinction. Okay, third example, which connects habits and money to this idea of loose ends. This one surprised me.
This is fascinating. The idea is that having a lot of unfinished business is a form of mental leaking. It shows a chaotic mind that isn't governing itself.
So having a messy house, or debts you're ignoring, or a full inbox, that's leaning. How?
It's leaning on future you to deal with the problems of present you. It's an avoidance of your own authority. You're refusing to command your environment. The commentaries on Holmes suggest that acts like paying yourself first or systematically clearing debt are physical affirmations of self-worth.
It's a way of telling your own mind, I am in control here.
Yes, when you tidy up those loose ends, you are closing the little valves on the steam engine. You're stopping all the micro-leaks so you can build pressure for the things that really matter. If your environment is chaotic, your stream is muddy.
Okay, I am feeling personally attacked on the loose ends front, but I will take it. It means there's work to do.
We all have them.
So let's move into a guided exercise. We've talked about the theory, but let's operationalize this. How do we actually stop leaning? Right now, today. We're going to call this the inner authority reset.
A great way to put the philosophy into the muscles.
Okay, listeners, I want you to take a moment right now. If you're driving, keep your eyes open, but just turn your focus inward. We're going to stop leaning for just a couple of minutes.
So first, let's identify the lean. Ask yourself, where are you currently seeking permission? Is it a project you're stalled on, a text you're afraid to send, a purchase you're debating? Just spot where that approval loop is spinning in your life right now.
Find that one thing. Got it. Okay. Now, step 2. Quiet the noise. This is crucial. I want you to imagine you are in a crowded room, and all the people with opinions, your mom, your boss, some random person on the internet, they are all in there shouting at you.
It's noisy, it's chaotic.
Now, I want you to mentally walk to the door, push them all out into the hallway, and slam that door shut. Hear the latch click. Slide the deadbolt.
And use that cue from the book. Wait thou within the silence dim. In this space, the noise is gone. There's only you and that infinite intelligence. Affirm this to yourself. I am one with the infinite understanding. I know exactly what to do.
Feel that. That's the steam pressure building. Now, step 3. Choose one next step. Just listen for the impression. What is the immediate, gut-level next step?
It doesn't have to be the whole path. You don't need to see the final destination. You just need the very next logical movement. Trust the first clear thought that comes in the silence.
And finally, step 4. Commit to action. Set a short action window for yourself. Commit to taking that one step as soon as this audio ends. Not tomorrow, now.
As Holmes says, he laughs best who laughs last. Ignore the fear of what other people might think. The action is what seals the connection. The moment you act on your own authority, you strengthen that backbone.
I love that. He laughs best who laughs last.
It's such a good reminder that the peanut gallery just doesn't matter in the long run.
It really doesn't.
Okay, before we wrap up, I want to troubleshoot a few things. Because whenever I try to go into self-reliant mode, I sometimes swing too far the other way and just become a hermit.
That's the big one. Mistaking keeping counsel for total isolation. People think self-reliance means you can never ask for help.
Right. But Holmes isn't saying, don't hire a plumber.
Exactly. You can have mentors, you can hire experts, you can absolutely use a plumber. But you must remain the final judge. Delegation is not leaning if you set the direction.
So you're the captain, they're the crew. You don't ask the crew where to sail the ship. You tell them the destination, and they help you get there.
That's a perfect way to put it. Another mistake is talking about your plans to skeptics. We touched on this, but it's worth repeating. Secrecy is power.
But why do we do that? Why do we pitch our dreams to people who we know are going to shoot them down? It's often a subconscious form of self-sabotage. If they shoot it down, we don't have to do the scary work of actually treading.
Ouch.
Holmes's advice is to only share with those who are on the same vibrational frequency. If they don't get it, don't share it.
Another mistake I see is the doubt loop. Waiting for 100% certainty before you do anything.
Yes. We want the evidence before we believe. We say, I'll believe I can start this business when I see the money in the bank. But Holmes teaches the exact opposite. You have to believe it into existence.
The belief comes before the evidence.
The belief comes first. You have to trust the impression before you see the result. Action creates clarity, not the other way around.
Okay, and what about the final mistake?
thinking that self-reliance is lonely.
It does sound a little lonely, just me and my backbone against the world.
But if you go back to the source, self-reliance is actually relying on the infinite within. Holmes argues that when you go inside, you connect with the universe. So you're never actually alone. You're just connecting with the biggest power there is, instead of the diluted power of the crowd.
Wow, that shifts the perspective completely.
It's not isolation, it's communion.
It's communing with the source rather than the reflection.
So let's bring this all home. What are the main takeaways for someone who wants to stop being a leaner starting today?
First, just remember that leaning is outsourcing your inner authority. It drains your light and creates anxiety.
And you are the inlet and outlet for creative intelligence. So don't block the door by looking at what everyone else is doing.
Silence preserves the power of your ideas, so don't open the valves and let all the steam out.
Right. Talking too soon just dissipates your energy. Keep your own counsel until the work is underway.
And a clear stream of consciousness reflects the best path. Stop muddying the water with other people's opinions.
More backbone, less wishbone. Action is required. And ultimately, trust your own voice above all others. It's the only voice that truly knows your path.
I feel like I need to go sit in a quiet room for a while and just let all that sink in. This stuff from the 1930s just hits harder than most modern self-help books.
The truth usually does. It doesn't have an expiration date.
So next time, we're going to take this new backbone we've developed, and we're going to talk about how to use it to attract resources. We're going to get into the mental equivalent of prosperity.
It's the natural next step. Once you have the authority, you need the blueprint.
Thanks for being here. If you want the full series, check the playlist, and please like and subscribe so you don't miss the next episode.